Step into the ring with the hottest WWF superstars like Hulk Hogan and Bret the Hitman Hart. Body slamming WrestleMania action is now on all video game systems.
And now, introducing the hottest new tag team in podcasting, George Feast, Johnny Clash, the Game Marks.
Welcome to the Game Marks Podcast. My name is George Feast, and I, as always, am here with my partner in podcasting, independent wrestler Johnny Clash.
Hey!
Each week on this podcast, we break down the good, the bad, and the awesome of wrestling video games and offer up our rating of Play It Forever,
Woo!
or Future Endeavor.
You're fired!
This week on the podcast, we are playing WWF Steel Cage Challenge. But before that, Mr. Clash, how are you? How has your week been?
I am super de-duper. How are you, Georgie?
I am doing well. Full from a hearty breakfast.
Yeah, as we are recording, it is Sunday morning, so we are live and up to date right now. By the time you hear this, it's Monday. Only a day has passed. This is as authentic gets.
Yep.
So last week we played Micro League Wrestling. Any follow-up? Any thoughts, comments?
I stick by what I said. We did get a lot of feedback. On Twitter, though, which was great because apparently, and I didn't know this, there was a TNA game that came out for the iPhone a couple years ago that is somewhat similar and turn-based like this.
Yes, I believe it's still somewhere in my parents' house on my old iPhone 4S. So actually, Will McDonough, who Will is ballin' on Twitter, one of our favorite interactions, pretty much every day, mostly because he likes to call out me talking crap about Fire Pro Wrestling. He said, just finished the pod, first episode where you covered a game I hadn't played. Now I've got to figure out a way to try it. The TNA wrestling game on the iOS from Longtail Studios was a really solid turn-based wrestling game that's worth a shot if you can figure out a way to obtain it. Which I believe that old iPhone 4 is our way to obtain it because it's not in the App Store anymore.
We'll find a way. There's an APK file out there somewhere on the internet, and if we have to scour the web to do it, we will.
Also last week, we asked a bunch of our listeners, a bunch of our usual listeners, what their favorite controllers were, as that was our question of the week. We had WCW Worldwide say they're a big fan of the Joy-Cons from the Switch, where we went back to Will is Ballin', and he liked the Xbox One controller. But he did also agree with me with the GameCube controller.
I feel like that Xbox controller... I mean, I feel like the majority of the debate was either you love the Xbox controller or you love the PlayStation controller. And there were very few people, almost no one really agreed with me with the N64 controller. But hey, I knew that was not going to be a super popular opinion. But
another fan, the Elder Spork, agrees with me with the DualShock 2 for the PS2. But he says the greatest controller of all time is the Xbox 360 controller, and even Nintendo ripped off the design with their Pro controllers. And then he also sent a picture of the Nintendo double player wireless head-to-head system from Acclaim. And
oh, yes.
I'm just saying, I've been looking at that on eBay. I got a watched listing in my account, so
I can't wait to go face to face and recreate this poster with you.
I think we have to, but honestly, they keep now that it's in my watch list, they keep sending me offers, and I'm like,
oh,
just a ton of votes for the Xbox controllers, which I get. People, that's a kind of a generational thing, I think, because it was very different when it first came out.
That's true. I don't know. So there's our buddy Nick, MC Conditioner on Twitter. His argument is good, and it kind of goes back to the point that I made as well. And even though he prefaces his sentence saying, I'm with Johnny, which I guess is okay.
Even though he prefaces
he makes a good point. The PlayStation controller was his favorite, and there's a reason that they haven't changed it in all these years. I mean, they've just tweaked it slightly, added a touchpad for the PlayStation 4, and now they're doing even more, it seems, with the next generation of console. But I mean, I also kind of made that similar point where I said, if it's not the N64, PlayStation 3 controllers always hooked up to my computer.
Now, with the Xbox controllers, I always thought that they were... This is going to, visually sound really stupid because when you look at them, it's not at all. But I always thought the Xbox controller was kind of just like a bigger, more advanced version of the Sega controller. If you could see that.
I can see that. I could see that. Oh, so if you're hearing my dogs barking in the background, that's yeah.
That's them agreeing with me. Got it.
That's the
that's my fan section.
the peanut gallery. Now, all right, I'm putting you on the spot right now because you posted some stuff on Twitter and we got to talk about it. Okay. Tell me about your late night tequila fueled eBay buying excursion.
Okay, so I saw someone had posted the Goldberg Tiger game where it's like a 12-inch figure of Goldberg and on his chest is a little stick figure video game.
Okay.
So, being the gigantic Sting fan that I am, I was like, I'm gonna check these out maybe and see, what's around. And I found some, but they're still going for like $30-$40 on eBay, and I'm not willing to spend that on a game that might work from 1998. So instead, I found the WCW Nitro Sting handheld from Tiger, and it looks like, a regular handheld, but it kind of has the engravings.
It looks like big gold.
Yeah, big gold with Sting's picture on it. Again, it's not that crazy of a game. It's literally stick figures fighting, but it stars Sting. But the cool part is, if you have two of these, you could link them up and battle. And they have Goldberg, Sting, Hogan, and the Giant available. So I'm not going to lie, George.
So I'm going to have to get one, and then we're going to have to do a Clash of the Feast with these?
I was going to say, if you want to pick one up, I got Sting. If you want to relive some classic WCW, you could pick one up yourself. Ooh. But other than that, I was thinking, because not only did I pick this up, but I also grabbed the Stone Cold Steve Austin handheld from MGA Entertainment. Now,
is this the start of you having a handheld collection? Because it kind of seems like that's what you're going for now.
It might be. I do think I have... I remember having one of these growing up. It might have been Kane, I think. So if I could find that would be awesome. But I did buy the Stone Cold one. So I'm thinking a bonus episode where we go head-to-head. We go Stone Cold versus Sting. A classic dream match of the Attitude Era that we didn't get to see. And instead it'll be handhelds. But I will say the MGA Entertainment one does not look as cool as the Tiger one because Tiger was basically the king of handhelds.
Yes.
But we're going to play those and we will let you know.
Awesome. Well, I just, wanted to bring those up because it's very interesting to think that there's still a market for handheld wrestling games.
Yeah, and I kind of hit you with that. I kind of hit you at like 1 a.m, like, hey, just bought these on eBay. We're going to have a bonus episode.
I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I think it is time for us. Well, not for us. This is the segment where you play your fancy little do music and you take us through some gaming news.
But first, let's tell them about what we have up on GameMarksPod.com.
Hey, John, did you see that new shirt that we released over on GameMarksPod.com?
Of course I did. I already cut the sleeves off and use it at every training session.
Oh, God, great. I'm sure that the internet and all of Twitter and Instagram can't wait to see your sleeveless selfies in the mirror.
It's available in men's, women's, kids, tank tops, so you don't have to cut it, long sleeve, and sweatshirts. All of that, plus, it was designed by me.
The hits just keep on coming here. All right, well, everybody gets their 15 minutes, I suppose. Head on over to GameMarksPod.com and get yours today.
The holidays are over, but the sales continue. Right now on Amazon Prime, you could save $20 on that brand new Xbox One controller, just like the ones we just spoke about. Maybe it's time to replace the old one you threw at your wall playing 2K20. Rumored images of the PS5 were leaked last week, and if true, will come in both white and black at launch. Rather than looking like a refrigerator or a loaf of bread, the PS5 looks like a sleek little box of joy. Maybe we're just biased. For all the Marvel Avengers fans out there, the new Avengers game by Square Enix has been delayed to September 4th. As usual with delayed games, as much as this sucks to wait, it's all the best interest of the game quality. More bad news, Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed. CD Projekt Red announced on Twitter that the highly anticipated game, which was set to drop on April 16, 2020, has now been pushed back 5 months to September 17th, 2020. And that's all we have for gaming news this week. Check back next week.
So I have a informal, just conversational question before we get into the actual question of the week. How many people do you think are hearing that two pretty highly anticipated, very hyped up games are now delayed, knowing that 2K20 was released in the state that it was in? Do you think that that sets even more of a precedent of how bad that game's release was? Or do you think that all of these companies are learning from the mistake that 2K made and now they're trying to not be that way?
I don't think necessarily they're all looking at 2K because, I mean, you could look at any game. But I do think the yearly, like, sports type games like 2K, like NBA, like NHL, like Madden, I do think that those are under pressure, under like a time restraint, because the next year's has to come out. You want to give the user the full year of playing. That the games like this, where there's no like timeline for a part 2, they can be delayed more because you're going to play these for a while.
Okay. And speaking to games that released with bugs and things like that, I purchased the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for PS4, and the game is great. It's a lot of fun. It's very challenging, but there's definitely some noticeable bugs. Most commonly, when enemies spawn in and charge towards you, sometimes they'll glitch out and they'll charge towards you in the T-pose, which is very interesting.
Okay.
And they actually, and I wanted to get your opinion on this because I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. So I didn't pre-order the game, but they just rolled out a patch about maybe a week ago where it unlocked all of the pre-order content for every version of the game, whether you pre-ordered it or not. Now, we know that a lot of the games like 2K, like WWE 2K, and you know all those big AAA titles do some kind of pre-order bonus, whether that's in-game content. I mean, obviously, if it's like a physical item, like a shirt or a poster or something, that's different. But how would you feel if you pre-ordered a game? So hypothetically, you pre-order 2K20, and then 6 months after the game is released, they release the Fiend Pack for free for everybody.
Yeah, I can't imagine people are too happy about that. Which I guess is why they didn't do it. Right? They didn't do that.
I'm torn. No, they didn't do it. I'm very torn. I don't know how I feel, because it's, you pre-order a bonus, and back in the day you would just like pre-order a game to make sure that you got a copy of it. There wasn't like really an incentive. You just wanted to make sure like the Tuesday that the game came out, you were there on Tuesday and you were guaranteed a copy. It's not like you had to wait for the next shipment of games to go to the store.
And if it was Gears of War, I was there on Monday night, the night before at midnight for at least 2, 3, and 4.
But this is a different world that we're living in and buying games in now, where there's all these pre-order bonuses. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And obviously I want to open the question up to everybody on social media. Let us know, if you have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, or if you have pre-ordered any other game in the past, and just let us know if suddenly the content that you pre-ordered was just available to everybody who just randomly bought the game on like a Wednesday night, 6 months after the game was out, would you be okay with it? Do you not care? Do you pre-order games to just make sure that you have them? Like, what's your mentality when you go into pre-order a game?
Yeah, let us know.
And moving from that question, I think it's time that we get right into the question of the week. And this week, the question of the week is sponsored by Create Pro Wrestling.
On February 1st, Create Pro Wrestling returns to Lynbrook, New York for the first show of 2020 with Northern Invasion. Featuring Ethan Page, Space Monkey, and AEW superstar Orange Cassidy. All of this plus your favorite Create Pro wrestlers. Head on over to createprowrestling.com to pick up your tickets today.
So the question of the week, each week we go back and forth, and this week it is my turn to ask John a question, and obviously we present the question to everyone else afterwards. That's why we had such a great conversation about controllers last week. Here's my question for this week. So we talk about all these games. Every week, you and I sit down, sometimes for 40 minutes, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for almost 2 hours. What is the most that you have sat in a single sitting of playing a game? And if you could tell me what game it was, that also is acceptable.
Oh my God.
So the longest single sitting of playing a game.
I mean, the college years, I used to hop on around like maybe 9 or 10 at night. Probably more like 10:30. And like me and my friends would play Gears or Call of Duty till like 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Without fail. Bag of chips, you're good to go. But specifically, I do remember going over my uncle's house once, and he had a PS2 for his daughters. They weren't there, so me and my cousin kind of had full reign of what do we play. And we brought SmackDown vs. Raw, the first one.
Okay.
And we ran through the entire storyline from start to finish with Eddie Guerrero. In whatever long that party took that we were at for my uncle or something, we sat in that room and we played the entire game all the way to the credits.
Wow.
I remember it was Eddie Guerrero because that was a whack storyline, and no matter if you picked Raw or SmackDown, it was the exact same.
That's crazy.
And what about you?
So this is a tricky question for me to answer, because I previously to doing this podcast streamed on Twitch 4 times a week, and sometimes I would sit for 6 to 8 hours in a single sitting just playing multiple games, and everything from Fortnite to Diablo 3 and Counter-Strike. And so I'm not going to count that, because that was, that's not a single sitting of one video game. Those are multiple video games that we were streaming. So the one that stands out to me is the first Call of Duty Black Ops.
Ooh.
When that game released, me and my friend John picked it up from GameStop. Not you. Picked it up from GameStop, went to his house, sat down, ordered a pizza, and beat it in one sitting.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure the storyline for that is somewhere in between like 6 to 8 hours. So we went first thing in the morning, picked it up as soon as GameStop opened, like found a pizzeria that was open, got a pie, and then just sat down, ate a pizza, drank soda, played Call of Duty Black Ops, one sitting, full through.
So basically, you're describing our marathon charity stream that we're gonna do soon.
Yeah, pretty much. What I'm saying is that I'm well prepared for this. Between things like that, Twitch streaming, that's it. I'm ready.
Yeah, let's go.
And obviously, we want to know your answers to this question. So tell us what game you played and what your longest sit time was, and if it was a single sitting of you beat the entire game, or you were just stuck on a certain part and you were too stubborn to walk away. We want to hear it all. You can let us know on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. And what do you think, John? You think it's time that we get into our hashtag deep dive?
I think it's time. And the deep dive is sponsored by WWF Gamers.
WWF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One consoles and controllers. Check out their products at VGFgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off on your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grips, better style. So WWF Steel Cage Challenge, released for the Nintendo Entertainment System, September of 1992, the Sega Master System and the Game Gear in 1993, and the Plug and Play in 2018. But we'll talk about the Plug and Play a little bit later. So this game was published by Acclaim for the Sega Master System, the Game Gear, and the NES. And the Plug and Play was published by MSI Entertainment. Now, this game was developed by Sculptured Software on the Nintendo and Teeny Weeny Games on the Game Gear and the Sega Master System.
And what a difference in these games.
Oh, man. It's literally night and day.
We will get to that later, and you will also see in our Clash at the Feast video, but literally night and day between the NES and the Master System.
This is the first time that we've played multiple versions of a game where I actually felt like it was two different games. Like, it felt like the original and a remake. It was really, really jarring.
Right.
Now the NES version was released as a handheld TV game in 2018 under the name WWE WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge, with all references to the WWF name and logo being replaced by the WWE, and with 2 changes to the roster. Now, getting into the gameplay. Modes include a one-on-one regular match and steel cage version, tag team match, the WWF Championship where you choose one wrestler and defeat all other wrestlers to become the WWF Champion.
Go figure.
The Tag Team Championship. I know, who'd have thought that when you compete in the WWF Championship mode, you fight to become the champion. Unreal.
Wow.
And you know what? I'll give you a guess. You can. We'll do like another little trivia here. What do you think happens in the Tag Team Championship mode?
You win both Intercontinental and European. No.
Wow, did you work for Teeny Weeny Games? Did you help develop this game? That's unreal. I can't believe you got that first try.
Yeah, I've been told about the Teeny Weeny. Oh, okay, go on.
All right, easy. No. We're not getting into that. Obviously, when you play through the Tag Team Championship mode, you pick 2 wrestlers and defeat a combination of the rest of the roster to win the Tag Team Championships.
Wow.
Very, very easy, very, very self-explanatory. Now, here's something that is, I don't know how I feel about this. We're gonna get into the talk of the artwork right now. So, there's a lot going on, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, you have the iconic WrestleMania logo. There's a Steel Cage logo for the Steel Cage Challenge, obviously. And right now we're looking at the Nintendo variant of this. You have pictures of Macho Man, Bret Hart, Undertaker, Mountie. You have Hogan, Hogan tearing his shirt. And your center shot is Piper versus Macho Man in the cage.
I actually like this artwork.
You know what it is? Maybe it's just for the time. It feels super busy, but I guess like that's what it was back in the day. Like it was just.
Yeah, I mean, you could use a little shadow on those little boxes of Macho Man and Bret Hart and all that, but
yeah.
Other than that, I think it's actually somewhat of a modern looking, I would say almost like a DVD Blu-ray cover.
Yeah, and then you compare this to the Game Gear, which is pretty much the same style, except now the headshots are in stars and they remove the Mountie and you get Papa Shango.
So let's get into the plug and play.
Now, you have more experience with the plug and play than I do at this current moment because you have done the unboxing on our YouTube channel.
Yes, I do own this. I have played it a little bit. I do actually have another one, which I put for sale on our new Buy, Sell, and Trade. Head on to our Facebook to be a part of that group. This artwork, other than the WrestleMania logo and the obvious WWE, WWF logo change, the same Steel Cage Challenge logo, but now instead, we'll get to the roster. Hogan is nowhere to be found. You now have Ultimate Warrior, and you also have Razor Ramon.
I mean, I'm always a big fan of playing as Razor, so.
Right, me too. But you could see that obviously in 2018 there were certain issues with Hulk Hogan and the WWE. So I guess to say, hey, we don't have this license, we don't want this person in the game anymore, what can we do to make up for that? They put Warrior in and they put Razor Ramon in, which I'm okay with. I think part of that does lose the nostalgic charm of the game, but I think as a whole this thing is pretty cool with the joystick and all that.
Yeah, this will probably be something that we play on that live stream that we have coming up.
Yeah, and if you want to see it for yourself, head on over to our YouTube channel and check out the unboxing.
All right, so we've got a couple different rosters to break down here, so...
You want me to take it away?
Yeah, you know what? It's been what, 2 weeks since you've read a roster?
All right, calm down. I think I read last week's.
I don't remember. I thought oh no, I guess we split it, didn't we?
Yeah, sure, George.
Well, wow.
Anyway, the NES version features Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, IRS, Jake Roberts,
Single.
the Mountie, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Sid Justice, Ted DiBiase, and The Undertaker. Now, when you get to the Sega Master and the Game Gear versions...
Can I make a request really quick?
Sure.
For these next 4 wrestlers, can you do your best Howard Finkel voice?
Okay, so the Sega versions add Papa Shango, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, and Tatanka.
Thank you.
How's
you can
that?
go back to your... That was
okay?
good. I like it.
All right, cool. And it excludes Jake Roberts, the Mountie, Roddy Piper, and Sid Justice. So you got a little
singular Jake Robert?
No. Yeah, so like we said, it's a very similar roster, if you ask me. I like the Sega roster a little bit better just because of the whole Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels. But
yeah,
to each their own.
I'm right on there. I'm on board with you.
So now let's go through the plug and play roster. You have Bret Hart, IRS, Jake Roberts, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Sid Justice, Ted DiBiase, and The Undertaker, with the additions of Razor Ramon and Ultimate Warrior. So it's not that far off. I think it's a pretty loaded roster. I will say, when we played both of them, the NES version of Sid Justice looked exactly like the Sega version of Ric Flair. So yeah, I don't know if that's just a sprite they they just swapped in, or I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's an easy transition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so talking about the moves here, and again, you'll see this in our Clash at the Feast video on YouTube. All wrestlers have the same shared moveset. So standard punches and kicks, you get a body slam, a throw, and a headbutt. You have a flying clothesline, and oh my god, that thing that looks like a Rough Rider is supposed to be a drop kick?
I thought it was a flying elbow, but okay.
It looks like a Rough Rider, but okay.
Yeah.
There's a running power slam. Oh, there's a power slam to a running opponent. You have your stomp and elbow drop for your ground attacks. And you have, I suppose it's a double axe handle kind of flying chop off the top.
Yeah.
And there's not really like a down move. It's just you kind of just are in the air and then you're not. And it takes some damage. It's not a whole lot of animation to that. And yeah, there's no finishers in this game, which is kind of upsetting.
So when we played through, I thought we were missing something because this is as button mashy can get. We were literally just punching and kicking each other until one of us got a pinfall. There's got to be like a suplex. There's got to be a back suplex, something. I think we hit one body slam, which I see here. We have a body slam, a throw, and a headbutt. And then the running power slam to an opponent. Those are the only real unique moves, and I think we hit each of them once.
Yeah.
So that left a lot to be desired. We could have done at least a vertical suplex or something.
I think the last couple of games that we played, obviously with the exception of last week, is these older games, because they don't have a grapple button, it's just collision-based grapple. And I feel like that is just the most dated wrestling game experience. And I'm having to start to separate that from my reviews, because I hate that. I've always hated that. I hated that when I was a kid. I hate it even more now. And it's just something that I have to separate from when we do our rating of the game, because to me, that's just the most infuriating thing, is that I can't hit a button, go into a grapple with you, and then control what move I do. I understand there were certain limitations from the time, but it's just like one of those very frustrating, archaic kind of feelings of a game.
Well, the thing is, pro wrestling came out in 86, right? 87. Came out in 87. And this game came out like 3 or 4 years later, and I feel like it took a step back gameplay-wise. When it comes to plug-and-plays, it's definitely also an odd choice to put on a joystick. When you look at the WWE plug-and-plays that are available, it's really only this. And I don't know what it's called, but it's just a controller and you just plug it into the TV. It's just a WWE TV game from, it has Kurt Angle, Booker T, Eddie Guerrero, Chris
Oh yeah, it's just called WWE Plug and Play TV.
Right, so for only 2 of these to exist, I get the appeal of Steel Cage Challenge being like you could do cage matches on your TV with a joystick. Why not WrestleFest? Like, they make a WrestleFest arcade cabinet. They also make a smaller version of that's around like $300. I would have put that on this joystick, and I hope that that's something that they do in the future. I would also, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you don't want this, because I get what the monster that WWE is can do to certain classic items, but I would like to see pro wrestling be introduced also as a plug-and-play type thing with the joystick.
Yeah, I would love that.
Whether it's under their own license or whether WWE somehow grabs it, maybe makes their own version, but also includes like Starman and everyone. Something like that would be cool. Maybe we'll have to be the ones to do that, and you could play pro wrestling type game with Johnny Clash and George Feast.
Hey, and our up-and-coming favorite superstar, GMP Man.
Like I said, this just leaves a lot to be desired, especially on the plug-and-play. I bought this plug-and-play for $10, and like we mentioned, I think last week, my wife bought me one as well. She found it in the clearance bin in Macy's for $8.
Yeah.
These are inexpensive. It seems like they're not really selling too well. I don't know that many times I'm going to be like, oh, you know what I want to play? I want to put that plug-and-play Steel Cage Challenge in and play by myself for a match or two. And as you can see in our YouTube video this week, these matches do not last long at all. So the whole appeal of this game is just a lot to be desired.
So the plug-and-play is the NES version, or it's the Sega version?
Graphic-wise, it's the NES version. You can see by like the actual pictures of the wrestlers and their sprites in the character select screen and the health bar in the game, and the same sounds as the NES version.
I feel like that if it was more like the Sega version, that would be an argument for it. Like, it's a big pro, because the graphics on the Sega version were leaps and bounds better.
Right. But it's not.
Sad. But it is now time for us to get some R&R in. Take a deep breath in, relax as Johnny Clash takes us through those ratings and reviews.
Okay, so like with most older games, there's not much to rate with Steel Cage Challenge. There's usually not the Metacritic, not the IGN, not the GameSpot, but the Game Gear version of WWF WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge received a score of a 53% from Sega Master Force. Now, other than that, all we have really is a GameSpot user rating of a 5.1, which is not really that good. And did you know that Google actually has their own rating system now?
I knew that you could do like Google reviews for like businesses.
Well, apparently you could do that for games as well. So when I was doing some research, searching up this game, I did find some audience reviews for it. One of them says, by far the worst wrestling game released for the NES, and I hate to say it, may be the worst wrestling game, period. Now, another one gives it 2 out of 5 stars, and it says, while Sega Master System version is decent, the NES version is terrible. So, pretty much, more or less what we were saying throughout this whole episode. Other than that, it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible. I think for 92 and 93, it's a step in the right direction. So, following this is WWF Royal Rumble, which came out in 1993 for Genesis and the Super Nintendo. So, at least they took the concept and they tweaked it. They made it better because now we're in the next generation of consoles. It's only a year later. So, somewhat the same year if we're talking about the Genesis version. So, they were taking this concept and making it a little better. But also, in 1993, do you know what came out in 1993, George, for Sega CD?
Rage in the Cage.
Rage in the Cage. So we went from Steel Cage Challenge to Rage in the Cage. And this is like night and day compared to Steel Cage Challenge. You actually have like designs on the wrestler's gear. It actually somewhat resembles a wrestler and the WWF ring and a crowd. Rather than that overhead kind of 2D side scroller, it does look a little more 3D, I guess.
And it's another game with Bam Bam.
Another game with Bam Bam. I think he takes the cake, other than, I would say, like Triple H for most games ever. So, this is, really the same year that Steel Cage Challenge came out, and they tweaked it and made it way better. And it's still by Acclaim.
Yeah.
So, also, this was the first WWF console-based game to feature a steel cage. The last time we saw a steel cage before this was in WWF WrestleFest, which was not for a console. So this kind of set the bar. This kind of said, hey, we could do a cage. Let's do a cage. Now, here's my one gripe with cage matches in some of these games. When you hit into the cage, there's no ropes and you just go straight down.
Yeah.
So I guess it took them a while to figure out, hey, we could do ropes and cages in this game. So at least in Rage in the Cage, there's ropes and then the classic WWF blue ring surrounding it. But anyway, Georgie, do you want to tell our fantastic listeners about Clash at the Feast?
Clash at the Feast. You and I playing Steel Cage Challenge. So we did 2 matches. We did a match in the Nintendo version, and we did a match in the Sega version, and then we will also be doing the handheld later on at some point. But for Clash at the Feast purposes, we only counted the the NES version. I was Bret the Hitman Hart, and you were Randy Savage, and this was just a massacre. Just an absolute massacre. And I actually at one point felt bad that you had to get a win in an NES game that was a button mash game.
Okay, so you're gonna just I won SmackDown also. Remember?
So this was a normal match like John and I usually have. It's very competitive. It's back and forth. I get some moves in. He gets some moves in. But then at some point, his button mashing was just on a whole other level, and I had zero offense, and he pretty much wiped the floor with me the second half of the game, which means your winner of this week's Clash at the Feast for Steel Cage Challenge, Mr. Johnny Clash.
Play it. So, as of now...
Hold on.
As of now...
Are we going to talk about the Sega match?
No. Hang on.
All right, so
I just want to say...
Just make sure that you watch the Sega match so you can have a good understanding of how that version played out, since we're not going to talk about it here.
Yeah, that didn't count as Clash at the Feast, so you go watch the YouTube video for that one. But I just want to say right now, Georgie, I'm making my comeback. Right now, you're only up 12-8. You were running away with this thing, but Johnny Boy's, he's firing up his comeback and making the hot tag.
All right. It is now the most important moment of every episode. Johnny Clash. WWF Steel Cage Challenge. Ooh. Do we want to break this up? You give it a Play It Forever Future Endeavor for the NES version and a Play It Forever Future Endeavor for the Master System?
Sure.
All right.
Why not give all of them?
Johnny Clash. Steel Cage Challenge for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Will you play it forever?
Future Endeavor.
Or
You're fired!
you want to explain or?
Nope.
Okay. Steel Cage Challenge for the Master System, the Sega Master System. Play it forever or Future Endeavor.
Future Endeavor.
You're fired!
Cool.
I mean, are we doing plug and play also? Because that's probably going to just sit on my shelf as decoration for a little bit.
Okay, well, the plug and play you're saying is more like the NES version, so I'm assuming you're also going to Future Endeavor that?
Yes.
Great. Same.
You're fired!
You're the same for all of them?
Yep, hit that Vince McMahon, you're fired. And next week on the podcast, we are playing.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just, it didn't do much for me. Knowing that Royal Rumble comes out not even a full year after this. I mean, Royal Rumble is one of my all-time favorite cartridge wrestling games. I can't wait to see if that one still holds up, because I haven't played that probably since I was like 13 years old. So I'm very excited to play that. But I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. It wasn't great. I mean, I'm a huge fan of like all forms of like that 8-bit MIDI style theme music, and even some of these were hard to get through. Some of them sounded super sped up. They weren't even accurate, so I couldn't even like that. The sprites were bad. The artwork for each wrestler was bad. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. I hate to write off games like this, but like I said, knowing that such a better quality game comes out not even a full year after this, it's hard to look at this.
Yeah.
Being like, okay. To the point you made earlier, Pro Wrestling for the NES came out before this. Royal Rumble is the next game. How do you land on this where it's just like such a minimalist style game for both consoles?
It was a mess. I think all of the games around this time were a mess because it was the transitional period between consoles, and I don't know. I think give it like a couple years into the timeline of these games and we finally start rocking and rolling.
Yeah. But that being said, why don't you tell everybody what we're playing next week?
Next week on the podcast, we are playing Royal Rumble for Sega.
Oh my God!
Look at
How
that.
insane! What? It's like we planned this.
And not only that, but that will release a day after the actual Royal Rumble, right?
Now, do you have any Rumble plans? I mean, aside from entering at number 30?
I actually drew number 31 this year, so, you know.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So you'll be first for the 2021 Rumble.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, grab some pizza, crack open a beer, watch the Rumble. Probably my favorite pay-per-view, and I will say now,
I feel like you're not alone in that, myself included. I 100% agree with you.
I mean, I think the women's Royal Rumble match every year gets a lot of flack, but for me, it's just like, it's another Royal Rumble, so cool.
I was actually at the Rumble when Ronda Rousey debuted. I was at that Rumble in Philly.
Oh, sweet.
It was a good Rumble. There's I think if you're obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a fan of wrestling, but if you are someone who is very picky with the pay-per-views and the live events that they go to, obviously Mania is an experience in and of itself because it's multiple days. But if you're looking for just a solid one-off event to go to, I've been to multiple Rumbles. It never disappoints. It's always fantastic.
And not only next week will we be playing Royal Rumble for the Sega, I think I'm planning on having one of my Creator Pro buddies stop by, so.
Ooh, I can't wait to see who that is. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll check back next week to find out who it is and play some Royal Rumble.
All right. Well, that's going to do it this week for us here at the Game Marks Podcast. Do not forget to follow us on social media at Game Marks Pod. Please leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to this podcast wherever great podcasts can be found. I'm really looking forward to next week. It's Rumble season. We're playing the Rumble game. I can't wait. Johnny boy, time to say goodnight.
Game over, Marks. Have a good week, guys.
Bye.